India and Western concept of education. Indian concept of education. Philosophical foundation. Rooted in ancient Indian scriptures like Vedas, Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita, and teaching of philosophers like Swami Vivekananda and Mahatma Gandhi. Aim of life. Education is not just for livelihood but for achieving self realization, understanding one's dharma, attaining moksha, liberation, holistic growth. Education covers the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect of life. Moral values and discipline. Strong focus on ethical conduct, truthfulness, non-violence, and service to society. Teacher-centered learning. The Guru is revered as the one who dispels darkness, ignorance, and brings knowledge. So, Indian concept of education, spiritual and holistic, rooted in values, ethics, and philosophy, inspired by texts like Vedas, Upanishad, and Bhagavad Gita, emphasizes Guru Shishya traditions. Education includes spiritual, moral, intellectual, and physical development, focuses on unity of life, interconnectedness, individual, and society. Western concept of education, scientific and empirical, based on rational thinking, experimentation, and practical skills. Individual development encourages independence, creativity, and personal freedom. Secular approach. Education is mostly separate from religious teachings. Utility oriented, strong emphasis on preparing students for the job market, innovation, and economic contribution. Student centered learning. Focus on inquiry based learning and active participation of the learner. So, Western concept of education generally more scientific, secular, and pragmatic, emphasis on rationality, critical thinking, problem solving, and skill development. Education is often as means to achieve economic productivity and social status, influenced by thinkers like Plato, Rousseau, John Dewey. More learner centered, focusing on individuals' potential and rights. Aims of education. Individual level. Develop the full potential of a person, physical, mental, and spirituality. Encourages self-confidence, self-reliance, and critical thinking. Helps individuals find meaning and purposeful life. Develops of personality, critical thinking, creativity, and values. Social level. Social aims. Promotes adjustment with society, cooperation, and respect for others. Instill social values like justice, equality, brotherhood, and tolerance. Maintain social order by reducing ignorance and promoting ethical behavior. Social aim. Socialization, cultural transmission, development of social values. National aims. Build a democratic citizen who are responsible and informed. Promotes national integration, unity in diversity, and pride in cultural heritage. Prepare people to contribute to economic and technological development. National aim, national integration, democratic citizenship, economic development. Global level, global aim, fosters international understanding and peace through awareness of global issues, encourages respect for human rights, cultural diversity, and global citizenship, develops consciousness of global challenges like climate change, poverty, and war. Global awareness, peace, cooperation, sustainability, and human rights. Functions of education at individual level. Cognitive development, moral and emotional growth, skill acquisition. Intellectual function, expands knowledge, sharpens memory, and enhances thinking skills. Enhances knowledge, intelligence, and reasoning. Emotional function, helps manage emotions, build resilience and self-control. Vocational function trains pupil for profession and self-employment. Aesthetic function cultivates appreciation of arts, culture and beauty. At the social level, socialization helps individuals learn social norms, language and behaviors. Cultural transmission preserves and passes down culture from one generation to the next. Social cohesion encourages tolerance and understanding among different groups. Cultural preservation transmits customs, traditions, and heritage. Social integration promotes unity and cohesion in diverse communities. Social mobility act as a tool for improving one's social and economic status. National level. National identity creates a sense of belongingness and pride in one's nation. Civic responsibility educates citizens about their rights and duties. Development of leadership nurtures future leaders in politics, business, and society. National level function of education, human resource development, trains skilled professionals for national growth, nation building, encourages patriotism, democratic values, and civic responsibility. Economic progress contribute to GDP through an educated and productive population. Global level. Global awareness inform students about global issue, cultures and trends. Collaboration encourages international partnership in education, research and innovation. Peace and sustainability promotes education for peace, human dignity and environmental responsibility. So at the global function of education, global awareness, collaboration, peace and sustainability, international understanding encourages respect for diversity and global peace. Sustainability and responsibility educates about environmental and social responsibilities. Technological and cultural exchange promotes collaboration and innovation across nations. India and Western concept of education aims functions of education in individual, social, national and global levels. Indian concept of education. The Indian education philosophy is deeply intertwined with its diverse philosophical schools like Vedanta, Yoga, Sankhya, Buddhism, Jainism, and spiritual traditions. The ancient Gurukula system, where students live with their teachers, emphasized a holistic development beyond mere intellectual acquisition. Aims of education. So, India and Western concept of education aims and functions. The concept of education in India and the West, while sharing some common ground, have historically emphasized different aims, functions. Indian concept of education. The Indian concept of education has deep roots in philosophical and spiritual traditions. Historically, it emphasized holistic development, self-realization, and transmission of culture and spiritual wisdom. Aim of education, individual level, self-realization. The ultimate aim is to realize one's true self and achieve liberation, moksha. Holistic development. This encompasses physical well-being through yoga and physical activities, mental discipline through meditation and study, emotional balance through ethical teaching and self-reflection, intellectual growth through the acquisition of knowledge, and spiritual awakening through philosophical inquiry and practices. Character formation. Emphasis is placed on cultivating virtues like truthfulness, satya, non-violence, ahimsa, honesty, self-control, brahmacharya, and non-possessiveness, aparigraha. Education is seen as a tool for moral and ethical refinement. Development of innate potential. The belief is that every individual is born with unique talents and capabilities. Education's role is to identify, nurture, and bring forth these latent potentials. Acquisition of knowledge and wisdom. While or information is important, wisdom, understanding and application of knowledge in life is considered superior. Education aims to transform information into meaningful understanding. Social level. Social harmony and cohesion. Education promotes values that bind society together, emphasizing duties towards family, community, and society at large. The concept of dharma, righteous duty, plays a significant role in shaping social behavior. Preservation and transmission of culture. Education acts as a vital link between generations, ensuring the continuity of cultural traditions, language, arts, and philosophical heritage. Fulfilling society social duties. The traditional Varna system emphasizes the importance of individuals fulfilling their societal role with dedication and skill. Education prepared individuals for these roles. Development of social skills. Learning to interact respectfully, cooperate, resolve conflicts, and contribute to community well being are integral aspects. National level. Patriotism and national unity. While the concept of a unified nation state is relatively modern in India's long history, the underlying values of love for the land, cultural pride, and a sense of collective identity have been emphasized. Education aims to foster this sentiment. Preservation of national identity. Education plays a crucial role in maintaining promoting India's diverse yet unified cultural, linguistic, and philosophical heritage in the face of external influence. Development of responsible citizens. Educating individuals about their rights and responsibilities as citizens, promoting civic engagement, and fostering a sense of duty towards the nation. Social reforms and progress. Historically, education has been a tool for social reform movements, challenging inequalities and promoting progressive values. Global level. Universal values. Indian philosophy emphasized universal values like truth, peace, compassion, and non-violence, which education aims us to instill. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. The world is one family. This profound concept underpins the Indian perspective on global relationships, promoting a sense of interconnectedness and responsibility towards all humanity. Education strives to cultivate this global outlook. Spiritual understanding. Recognizing the underlying spiritual unity of all beings transcends and cultural and national boundaries, fostering a sense of universal brotherhood. Educational heritage of India. India has a rich and diverse educational heritage shaped by various philosophical, spiritual, and cultural traditions. From the Vedic period to medieval era, education in India evolved to meet the social, moral, and spiritual needs of society. India's educational history reflects a journey through deep philosophical thought, spiritual inquiry, and holistic development. The three main phases, Vedic, Buddhist, and medieval, each contributed uniquely to the nation's educational and cultural foundation. Vedic period. Vedic period. Key features. Education was imparted in Gurukulas, residential schools. Focus was on self realization, spiritual knowledge, and character building. Subjects included Vedas, Upanishad, mathematics, astronomy, ethics, philosophy, medicine, etc. The ceremonies and traditions are Upanayana ceremony is sacred initiation ritual for entering formal education. The student received the Gayatri Mantra and began life as a Brahmachari student. The bond between Guru and Shishya was sacred and lifelong. Nature of education. Education during the Vedic period was spiritual, holistic, and focused on all round development of an individual. It included physical, mental, and moral training. Subjects taught include Vedas, Upanishad, grammar, Vyakarana, astronomy, Jyotisha, medicine, Ayurveda, philosophy, Darshana, and ethics, Niti Shastra. Method of teaching. The Gurukula system was followed where students lived with their teachers and learned through dialogue and practice. Aim. The main aim was self-realization, character building, and attaining moksha, liberation. The Buddhist period. Shift in focus. Key features. Education became more democratic and open to all classes and genders. Monasteries become centers of higher learning. Nalanda, Vikramshila, Takshila. Emphasis on moral values, reasoning, meditation, and mindfulness. Ceremonies and traditions. Pabbaja. Ceremony where young novices entered the monastic order, symbolizing detachment from worldly life. Upasambada, higher ordination. Ceremony marked formal acceptance as a Buddhist monk, followed by deep academic and spiritual study. Shift in focus. Education became more accessible and inclusive. Buddhist monasteries, viharas become centers of learning. Famous institutions Nalanda, Takshila, Vikramshila, and Vallabhi were world-renowned universities. Curriculum included logic, philosophy, medicine, grammar, and Buddhist scriptures like Tripitakas. Medium of instruction Pali, Prakrit, making education more reachable to the masses. Objective to spread moral values, compassion, and wisdom for societal well-being. Next is medieval period. Key features. The rise of madrasas and maktabs under Islamic influence. Curriculum included Quranic studies, law, philosophy, mathematics, Persian, and Arabic literature. Hindu Pathshala continued teaching Sanskrit, logic, and religious texts. Ceremonies and tradition. In madrasa, students underwent religious initiation through recitation of Quranic verses. In Hindu Pathshala, learning often began with the Vidyarambha, initiation into the learning, particularly during Vijayadashami. Significance. So, the Islamic influence. Islamic education introduced madrasa and maktab. Arabic and Persian become the medium of instruction. Subject taught Quranic studies, theology, law, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and literature. Hindu institutions. Pathshala and tools continued to teach traditional subjects like Sanskrit, logic, mathematics, and religious texts. Challenges. Political instability and foreign invasions affected the continuity of Indian education. Significance of Upanishad in world peace and sustainable development. Core message, universal of oneness. The Upanishad proclaim Aham Brahmaste, I am the divine, promoting the idea of universal equality. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam, the whole world is one family, a foundation for world peace. Detachment and moderation teaches contentment and harmony with nature. Core teaching unity of existence. Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. The world is one family. Inner peace as the path to outer peace. Emphasis on truth, compassion, and non-violence. Harmony between humans and nature. Relevance to world peace. Encourages tolerance, universal brotherhood, advocates for meditation, self-discipline, and control of desires, reducing conflict. Sustainable development teaches contentment and respect for nature, reducing overexploitation of resources, promotes balance between material and spiritual life. The relevance encourages inner peace, which leads to outer peace, teaches respect for a life forms and promotes sustainability, reduces greed and exploitation by focusing on self-realization over materialism. Educational implication of Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna that offers a timeless educational and ethical guidance. Key teachings for education. Nishkama karma. Do your duty without attachment to result. Helps reduce student anxiety and promotes healthy learning. Self-discipline and mind control. Vital for concentration and emotional intelligence. Inclusivity. Wisdom and enlightenment are accessible to all regardless of caste or background. Swadharma encourages students to find and follow their own calling or purpose in life. Ceremonial relevance. Recitation of verses from the Gita is part of many school functions, particularly during Gita Jayanti and spiritual gatherings, promoting moral education and cultural values. The educational implications of the Bhagavad Gita. Holistic development. Encourages physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual growth. Nishkama karma, selfless action. Teaches students to perform their duties without attachment to result, helpful in stress management. Swadharma, righteous duty, helps students understand their role in society and act ethically. Yoga and mind control, emphasis on discipline, meditation, and self-regulation, fosters focus and resilience. Equality and inclusiveness. Gita promotes the idea that knowledge and wisdom are open to all regardless of caste and background. So, India's educational heritage is not merely about academic learning but about building character, promoting peace, and sustaining harmony between man, society, and nature. The Vedas, Upanishad, Buddhist philosophy, and Bhagavad Gita continue to inspire a holistic vision of education that is deeply relevant in today's world. Comparison of ceremonies. Vedic education, Buddhist education, medieval education. Main ceremonies: Upanayana ceremony, sacred thread ceremony. The Upanayana ceremony marks the beginning of formal education in the Vedic period. Mainly boys from Brahmin, Kshatriya, and Vaishya Varnas, typically performed between the ages of 8 to 12 years depending on caste rituals. The child was given a sacred thread, Yajnopavita. He was handed over to a guru to begin education in a Gurukula, symbolized of second birth. Highly spiritual second birth, Guru Shishya, lifelong bond. Sacred thread, simple truth, emphasized discipline, devotion, and service to the Guru. Medium of instruction Sanskrit. Buddhist education. Key ceremony Pabaja. Novice ordination. Pabaja means going forth, renouncing worldly life and entering a monastery. Participants boys, often as young as 8, seeking to become novice monks. Samaniras. Rituals: shaving of the head and donning the yellow or orange robe. Recitation of the 3 refuges: Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. Taking of the 10 precepts, moral vows. Higher ordination Upasambhada. For monks age 20 plus, allowing them to become fully ordained monks, bhikshus. Focused on detachment, moral discipline, and inner purification. Education began after ordination, study of Tripitakas, meditation, and debate. So, in Buddhist education, Pabaja is the initial ceremony. 8 plus for novice, 20 plus for full ordination. Spiritual nature, renunciation and moral vows. Teacher, student bond, discipline, monk, monastic learning. Shaved head, monk's robe. Medium of instruction Pali and Prakrit. Medieval education. Bismillah. Islamic simple joining rituals. Islamic education Madrasa and Maktab. Key ceremony Bismillah. Bismillah means in the name of Allah. Participants Muslim boys around the age of 4 to 5. Recitation of the first verses of the Quran. In presence of a teacher, Maulavi and family. Simple ceremony with prayers, sweets and blessings. Significance marked spiritual and educational beginnings, focused on religious studies, Arabic, logic and law. Hindu traditional education, Pathshala and tools. Ceremonies were less formalized than in the Vedic period. Students joined based on family traditions or community arrangements, often began with prayers and recitation of Sanskrit verses but lacked elaborate like Upanayana. So, medieval education, initial ceremony Bismillah, 4 to 6 years. Spiritual nature, Islamic, practical, Hindu Pathshala. Teacher-student bond, formal, more structured. Symbols, cap, Quran, robes. Medium of instruction, Arabic, Persian. Pathshala, Sanskrit and vernacular. Western system of education in India with a special focus on Macaulay Minutes 1835 and Wood's Dispatch 1854. Western system of education in India. When the British East Indian Company took control over India, education was largely traditional, rooted in gurukulas, madrasas and pathshalas, focused on religious and moral education. The British were initially indifferent to Indian education, but later they realized the need to educate Indians for administrative and economic purpose. Western system of education. The Western system of education was introduced in India during the British rule, especially from the early 19th century. The British aimed to create a class of Indians who could assist in administration and serve as intermediaries between the British rulers and Indian masses. The shift was marked by two major documents, Macaulay's Minutes. The background. In the early 19th century, a debate was going on in British circles. Should Indian education promote traditional learning in Sanskrit, Arabic, and Persian, or should it focus on Western education and English language? This debate led to the historic Macaulay Minutes written by Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay, who was the law member of the Governor General's Council. Key points of Macaulay Minutes. He strongly criticized Indian knowledge system and praised Western literature, science, and rationality. So, the debate, Orientalists supported traditional Indian learning, Sanskrit, Persian. Anglicists like Lord Thomas Babington Macaulay supported Western English education and Western knowledge. Key features. Macaulay argued that Western literature and science were superior to Indian knowledge. He strongly criticized Indian knowledge system and praised Western literature, science, and rationality. Advocated that English should be the medium of instruction in higher education. Rejected funding for Sanskrit and Arabic colleges. Proposed creating a class of Indians educated in English who would be loyal to the British and help govern the country. So, Macaulay argued Western literature and science were superior to Indian knowledge. He described Indian languages and literature as worthless compared to English. Promoted English as the medium of instruction. English as the medium of instruction. Advocated for teaching Western science, philosophy, and rational thinking. Western literature, science, philosophy, and rational thinking. The real aim was not mass education, but to create clerks and officials to assist in administration. Education was to be used as a tool of control and cultural influence. Immediate effect of Macaulay Minutes. English replaced Persian as the official language. Traditional systems like Gurukula and Madrasa lost support. Indigenous knowledge and languages were marginalized. The criticism was considered Eurocentric and elitist. Ignored the rich philosophical, scientific, and literary traditions of India, created a divide between English educated elite and the common masses. Famous quote: "We must at present do our best to form a class who may be interpreters between us and the millions whom we govern." Impact led to the promotion of English education in India, shifted focus from traditional Gurukulas and madrasas to Western style schools and colleges. Indigenous education declines as funds and attention were diverted. Hood's Dispatch, 1854. After Macaulay Minutes, education in India was growing, but there was no clear structure. In 1854, Sir Charles Wood, the President of the Board of Control for India, sent a detailed report known as Wood's Dispatch to Governor General Lord Dalhousie. The importance known as the Magna Carta of English education in India because it laid the foundation of modern education system. Wood's Dispatch is known as the Magna Carta of Indian education. Issued by Sir Charles Wood, President of the Board of Control for the East Indian Company. Objectives: to systematize education in India, to create a proper educational hierarchy, primary, secondary, and higher education. Key recommendations. Aim of education: spread Western knowledge and moral values, promote literacy for better administration, encourage critical thinking and rationality. The structure of education: set up a hierarchical education system, primary schools in vernacular languages, middle schools, high schools and colleges in English, universities, establishment of universities, proposed universities in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras in 1857. These universities were modelled on the University of London. Teacher training, special training institutions for preparing qualified teachers. Female education strongly supported the spread of women's education, which was very limited until then. Private participation encouraged missionaries and private agencies to open schools, gave grant in aid to recognized schools and colleges. Secular education recommended no religious teaching in government funded schools. Long-term impact of the Western system. Positive aspects. So the key recommendations: English to be the medium of instruction. Higher education, vernacular languages for primary level. English to be the medium of instruction in higher education, vernacular languages for primary levels. Establishment of universities in Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, which happened in 1857, emphasizes on teacher training and female education. Encourage private participation and missionary involvement in education. Promote secular education, no religious teaching in government institutions. Impact: led to be structured education system in India for the first time. Helped spread Western ideas of reason, liberalism and science. However, it also created an elitist system focusing mainly on urban and upper class students. Criticism of Western system. Its positive aspects introduced modern subjects science, mathematics, geography and Western philosophy, created a class of educated Indians who become reformers, leaders and thinkers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Swami Vivekananda, etc. Helped spread ideas of democracy, liberty and equality. Negative aspects: neglected Indian heritage and languages, created a divide between English educated elite and rural masses. Education was urban centric and focused on producing clerks, not thinkers or innovators. Comparison of Macaulay's Minutes. And so the criticism of Western system: neglected Indian culture, languages and values, created a class of Indians who were Indian in blood and color but English in taste, created a class of Indians who were Indian in blood and color but English in taste. Education was not mass oriented, rural and lower class population were largely excluded. So education was mass oriented, rural and lower class populations were largely excluded. Comparison of Macaulay Minutes and Wood's Dispatch. Aspect: Macaulay Minutes 1835 focuses on promote English education. Wood's Dispatch 1854 focuses on systematic reforms of education. Nature: elitist, Anglicist. Wood's Dispatch: nature, broader and structured. Medium: Macaulay Minutes, medium of instruction English only. Wood's Dispatch, vernacular at primary level, English at higher level. Cultural view: Indian knowledge is inferior. Mixed, accepted traditional roots but promoted Western learning. Impact: rapid Anglicization. Woods Despatch laid foundation of Indian education system. So, in conclude, the introduction of Western system of education was a turning point in Indian history. While it brought modern knowledge and critical thinking, it also disconnected people from their own culture and values. Macaulay Minutes and Woods Dispatch had a lasting impact, forming the backbone of India's current educational structure. Elementary education system in India. Elementary education in India includes 8 years of schooling from class 1 to class 8 and covers children between the ages of 6 to 14. It is the most critical stage in a child's learning journey as it builds the foundation for lifelong learning and development. Elementary education in India refers to the basic formal education provided to the child from class 1 to class 8, generally between the ages of 6 to 14 years. It is the foundation stage of the entire education structure. Legal framework. Right to Education Act, RTE 2009. RTE made elementary education a fundamental right under the Article 21A of the Indian Constitution. Every child in the 6 to 14 age group has the right to free and compulsory education in a neighborhood school. No detention policy up to class 8. Structure of elementary education. It is divided into two main stages. Primary stage, class 1 to 5. Elementary education also ensures proper infrastructure, playground, toilet, classroom, qualified teachers, continuous and comprehensive evaluation, prohibition of physical punishment, mental harassment and discrimination. And the primary education, class 1 to 5, basic skills in reading and writing in mother tongue and English, mathematics, environmental studies, song, stories, drawing and physical education focus on play-based and activity-based learning. Next, upper primary education. Upper primary education stage, classes 6 to 8, structured learning with subject like mathematics, science, social studies, history, civics, geography, languages, Hindi, English, regional language, computer education, art, health and work education. Encourages analytical thinking, group work and project-based learning. Important schemes and initiatives. The key features. Right to Education Act 2009 provides free and compulsory education to all children up to age of 6 to 14 years. Emphasizes quality education, infrastructure and teacher-student ratio. Prohibits capitation fees, screening test and corporal punishment. National Education Policy, NEP 2020. New Education Policy, NEP 2020 and elementary education. NEP 2020 restructured the education system into 5+3+3+4 structure. Foundation stage 5 years. Foundational stage 5 years. Preschool plus classes 1 to 2. Preschool plus classes 1 to 2. Preparatory stage 3 years. Preparatory stage 3 years, classes 3 to 5. Middle stage, these two stages focuses on foundational literacy and numerical and numeracy. Middle stage 3 years, classes 6 to 8. So the first stage is foundational stage 5 years, preparatory stage 3 years, classes 3 to 5, middle stage 3 years, classes 6 to 8. Key challenges: emphasis on mother tongue or home languages as medium of instruction. Promotion of multilingualism focuses on experiential learning and critical thinking. Occasional education from middle stages onwards. These are the basics of New Education Policy 2020. Next is midday meals, midday meal scheme. A midday meal scheme provides free cooked meals to students in government and aided schools. Benefits: improved attendance and retention, enhanced nutritional level of children, encourages social equality. So midday meals provides free lunch to children in government schools, aim to improve nutrition, enrollment and attendance. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan or Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan, launched to achieve universal elementary education. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, launched in 2001 to achieve universal elementary education, focused on school infrastructure, girl education, inclusive education and community participation. Samagra Shiksha Abhiyan from 2018 integrates SSA and RMSA, integrates SSA elementary and RMSA secondary and teacher education into one scheme, provides fund and support for holistic development from pre-primary to class 12. So SSA launched to achieve universal elementary education. SSA now part of the Samagra Shiksha, which integrates school education from pre-primary to class 12. Objectives of elementary education: ensures universal access and retention of all children, promote basic skills, reading, writing, arithmetic, foster moral, social, emotional and physical development, bridges social and gender gap in education. Challenges: dropout rates, especially among girls and rural children, lack of infrastructure in remote areas, shortage of trained teachers, language barriers and social economic factors are challenges. So issues and challenges: remote areas still lack sufficient school quality of learning. Many children are in schools but lack basic skills. Teacher shortage, dropout rates, infrastructure gaps, lack of toilet, electricity, teaching aids. Goals of elementary education: achieve universal enrollment and retention, develop cognitive, social, emotional and moral skills, promote gender equality, social inclusion and democratic values, prepare children for higher education and responsible citizenship. So the conclusion: elementary education in India is more than literacy. It's about nurturing children into capable, aware and responsible citizens. While progress has been made in access and enrollment, the quality and equity of education need continuous improvement. Strong policies like RTE and NEP 2020 are stepping stones towards this vision. FLN, Foundational Literacy and Numeracy, Nipun Bharat Mission, ensures that children attain grade level reading and numeracy skill by class 3. Types of education: formal, informal and non-formal. First, formal education. Definition and meaning. Formal education is a systematic, structured form of education that is institution based, follows a set curriculum, and leads to recognized certification. Formal education is structured institutionalized education that follows a fixed curriculum and is provided by schools, colleges, and universities. Key features follows a set syllabus and calendar conducted by trained teachers, leads to certificates or degrees, takes place in a classroom settings. Schools, primary and secondary, colleges and universities, professional institutions, example medical and engineering colleges. Stages: pre-primary, nursery, kindergarten, primary classes 1 to 5, upper primary, middle class 6 to 8, secondary class 9 to 10, higher secondary 11 to 12, higher education, graduation, post-graduation, etc. Key features: well-defined curriculum, time-bound academic calendar, age-specific admission, periodic examination and assessment, trained teachers and certified institutions. Advantages: systematic learning, builds academic qualifications, career-oriented, develops discipline and critical thinking. Limitations: expensive in some cases, less flexible, fixed timing and syllabus, pressure of exam and grades. Informal education. Informal education is learning that occurs naturally outside of the structured school system. It is unplanned, driven by curiosity, environment, and experience. Where it happen at home, from parents, elders, in the community, through media, TV, radio, internet, from peers, travel, life experience. So, informal education is unstructured, lifelong learning that occurs naturally through experiences, surroundings, and daily life. No for key features: no formal curriculum or institutions, happens anywhere, anytime, no certificates or exam, based on self-learning and experiences. So happens spontaneously and lifelong. No need for enrollment or fees, not delivered by trained teachers. No set curriculum or schedule. Examples: learning cultural values at home, watching documentaries or YouTube tutorials, observing nature or society, learning from failure and personal experiences. Advantages: highly flexible, happens throughout life, builds values, attributes, and social skills, encourages independent and interest-based learning. Limitations: no certification, not structured or planned, may lack depth in academic subjects. Purpose: to develop social skills, values, attitudes, and practical knowledge through interaction with the environment. Non-formal education. Non-formal education is planned, organized education that takes place outside the formal school system. It is voluntary and flexible, often designed for specific learning needs. It happens adult education centers, skill development institutions, NGOs, or community-based learning centers, online platforms, example Coursera, Swayam. So, non-formal education is organized, flexible learning that take place outside the formal school system, often targeting specific groups, example adults, dropouts. Key features: planned and structured, but outside the school system, no age limit, open to all, often skill-based or occasional, may or may not lead to certification. So key features: curriculum may vary according to learners' need, flexible timing and locations, no age restriction, conducted by trained facilitators or community workers, may be short term or part time. Examples: literacy program for adult, occasional courses like tailoring, plumbing, computing, bridge course for school dropouts, health and hygiene awareness camp. Advantages: promotes lifelong learning, helps dropouts and marginalized groups, supports employment through skill based learning, less pressure compared to formal education. Limitations: recognition may be limited, quality may vary by provider, resources and funding can be challenging. Purpose: to provide practical skills and basic education for those who missed out on formal education or need flexible learning options. So, comparison: formal education feature, structure, highly structured; informal education unstructured; non-formal education semi-structured. Place: formal education schools, colleges; informal education home, community; non-formal education community centers, online. Teachers: formal education trained professionals; informal education parents, peers, media; non-formal education volunteers or facilitators. Certification: formal education certificate is the informal, no certificate; non-formal education sometimes certificate is the. Age limit: formal education age limit is the. Informal education no age limit; non-formal education no age limit. Flexibility: formal education low flexibility; informal education high flexibility; non-formal education moderate to high flexibility. So, together, these three types of education ensure that learning is continuous, flexible, and inclusive for all age groups and social backgrounds. Education is not limited to the walls of classroom, while formal education is essential for academic growth and certification. Informal and non-formal education play equally important roles in shaping character, building life skills, and promoting personal growth. A balanced blend of all three types of education is crucial for the holistic development of individuals and for creating an equitable and enlightened society. All three types of education, formal, non-formal, informal, are essential for holistic development. While formal education builds academic knowledge, informal and non-formal education helps develop life skill, values, and practical abilities, making learning continuous and lifelong. So, why all three are important together? Types of education: formal education focuses on academic and professional skills, contribution to society, builds workforce and in leadership. Informal education, moral and cultural values, contribution to society, builds responsible citizens. Non-formal education, practical and life skill, contribution to society, empowers lifelong learners. Education as investment, human resource development. Investment means putting in resources today like time, money, and effort, with the hope of getting greater benefits in the future. When a country invests in education, it is building its future workforce, leaders, innovators, and responsible citizens. Just like we invest money in a business to make profit later, investing in education develops human capital that will bring economic and social returns in the long run. Meaning of human resource development. Just like money invested in business give returns, investing in education brings long-term benefits to individuals and society. It enhances knowledge, skills, productivity, and creativity, making profit more capable and valuable contributors to the economy. Why is education considered a long term investment? Because it improves skill, leading to higher productivity, raises income levels. Better education leads to better paying jobs, lowers poverty. Educated people can break out of the poverty cycle, reduces dependence. Educated individuals rely less on welfare, strengthens democracy. Educated citizens are more active and informed, improves health and family welfare, especially through women's education. Why? What is human resource development? Human resource development refers to the process of improving people's skills, knowledge, and abilities to make them more productive and successful in their personal and professional lives. HRD is a process of enhancing the abilities of people so they can contribute effectively to personal growth and national development. It includes education, basic to higher, health and well-being, training and skill development, employment and entrepreneurship, value and personality development. Human beings are not just consumers of resources, they are creators of resources when educated and trained. So, human resource development includes education, skill training, healthcare, job opportunities, personal development. When people are educated and trained, they become an asset to the country called human capital. How education helps human resource development? Types of returns on investment in education: individual returns, better job opportunities, higher income, self confidence, and social respect. Social returns: economic development, social harmony, lower crime rate, innovation and technology development. So, aspect contribution of education: knowledge develops understanding in various field and various subjects and field. Skill provide technical and occasional and soft skill. Employment increases chances of getting better jobs. Productivity makes workers more efficient and innovative. Economic growth: educated people contribute more to GDP and development. Social development: build responsible citizens with moral values. Empowerment helps reduce poverty and inequality. Innovations, examples from the world of human resource development. Japan, after World War II, Japan invested heavily in education. Within a few decades, it became a leader in technology and manufacturing. South Korea focused on universal education and skill development. It rose from poverty to one of the richest Asian economies. India's efforts towards HRD through education, government program, Right to Education Act, free and compulsory education for 6 to 14 age group, Skill India Mission trains youth in job ready skills. National Education Policy NEP 2020 aims at holistic, flexible, skill based learning. Digit India and e-learning platform provide digital access to knowledge. Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao focus on girl child education. Education as a tool for national development. A literate and skilled population helps in modernizing agriculture and industry, promoting science and technology, improving health and sanitation, reducing unemployment and crime, strengthening democracy. For example, Countries like Japan and South Korea invested heavily in education and saw rapid economic progress. Returns of investment in education. Primary and secondary. Type of return: better basic skills, health awareness, civic sense. Higher education, professional opportunities, research, leadership skills. Vocational training, practical skill for self-employment or industries. Investment in girl education especially gives high returns in terms of family health, income and social development. Government efforts. In India, midday meal scheme improves nutrition and attendance. Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan promotes universal elementary education. Skill Indian Mission focus on employability skills. NEP 2020 aims to align education with 21st century skills and global standards. So, education is the most powerful investment a country can make. It transforms human beings into resources, fuels economic development, builds a knowledge society, and ensures social well being. Human resource development through education is not just about employment, it's about creating responsible, capable, and innovative citizens for a better future. Education as a discipline. Correlation with other subjects. A discipline is a field of study with its own methods, principles, and theories. Education as a discipline studies how people learn how to teach effectively, how education shapes society, and how it transforms individuals. What is education as a discipline? Education as a discipline means it's a structured area of study with its own theories, concepts, methods, and principles. It helps us understand how people learn what to teach and how to teach effectively in society. Education is interdisciplinary in nature. It draws knowledge from other disciplines to become more meaningful, scientific, and practical. Theoretical Theoretical means understanding concepts and principles. Practical, applying teaching learning methods in real life. Education is not isolated, it interacts with many other disciplines to become complete and meaningful. Correlation of education with other discipline. Education and history. History tells us how education evolved through time. It reveals ancient systems like the Vedic Gurukulas, Buddhist monasteries, and medieval madrasas. It explains the impact of colonial education policies like Macaulay Wood's Dispatch, etc. Helps understand educational movements like Sarvodaya movement, National Educational Movement, etc. Examples: studying the contribution of Gandhiji, Rabindranath Tagore, and Swami Vivekananda gives insight into the Indian educational philosophy. Helps teachers and students understand the roots of the system, encourage critical analysis of reforms and innovation, build civic consciousness and identity. So, education and history. History of education helps us understand the evolution of education system, educational thoughts and reforms. It shows how past events, cultures and ideologies have influenced modern education. For example, Gurukula system, Buddhist monasteries, British colonial education, etc. shaped current Indian system. Educational use helps develop a sense of identity, values, and civic responsibility, encourages critical thinking about progress and tradition. Education and philosophy. Philosophy deals with fundamental nature of reality, knowledge, and values in education. It answers what is the aim of education, what knowledge is of most worth, what kind of person should education produce. Examples: idealism stresses moral and spiritual development, naturalism promotes learning through nature and experiences, pragmatism encourages learning by doing. So, philosophy provides the foundation, purpose, and aims of education. It answers questions like why do we educate, why should we taught, what is the nature of the learner and teacher. Different philosophies, idealism, pragmatism, naturalism, etc., give different views on curriculum, teaching, methods, and disciplines. Educational use develops a value based education system, encourages ethical thinking and holistic development. Importance in education. Education and philosophy shapes the curriculum, teaching methods, and discipline, provides the values and ethics that education must instill, helps educators become reflective practitioners. Next, education and psychology. Psychology is the study of the mind and behavior. In education, it helps us understand how learners think, feel, and grow. Differences in learning styles. Motivation, memory, attention, intelligence, mental health, emotional development. So, education and psychology. Psychology studies how people learn, think, feel, and behave. Education psychology applies this knowledge to understand learning process, individual differences, motivation, intelligence, and mental health. Educational use helps design age-appropriate curriculum, improves teaching strategies, classroom management, and student evaluation, supports students with special needs. Examples of psychology theory: Piaget's theory of cognitive development, Vygotsky's social constructivism, Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives. Importance in education. Psychology importance in education helps design child-centered education, supports inclusive education for special needs, improve assessment and evaluation, enables teachers to handle classroom challenges better. Next, education and sociology. Sociology studies human society, culture, and institution. Educational sociology examines the role of school and education in social development, how caste, gender, class, and culture affect learning, how education promotes social mobility, inclusion, and equality. Sociology studies how society and institution function. Education sociology explores the relationship between education and society. It examines how caste, gender, class, culture, and community impact education. Educational use promotes social equity and inclusion in education, helps create a curriculum that reflects social diversity, understand how education can reduce inequality and build social change. Importance in education. Build an education system that is democratic and inclusive, teaches values like tolerance, justice, unity, make learners socially aware and responsible citizens. Education and science. Since science brings a rational and evidence-based approach to education, it helps in promoting scientific temper and critical thinking. Using technology in teaching, smart classes, e-learning, introducing STEM subjects, STEM, S science, T technology, E engineering, M mathematics, designing research-based teaching strategies. So education and science contributes method of inquiry, evidence-based knowledge, and logical thinking to education. It promotes the use of experimentation, observation, and objectivity in learning. Educational use. Examples use of education technology, ICT, AI in classrooms, application of learning theories in instruction, integration of environmental science for sustainable education. Educational use or importance. Encourages STEM education, science, technology, engineering, encourages problem solving and inquiry based learning, prepares learning for future jobs and innovation, connects education with real world challenges. develops critical thinking, problem solving, and innovation in students, introduces the use of education technology, scientific tools in classroom. Interdisciplinary nature of education. Education is like a tree. The roots are philosophy, the branches are psychology, sociology, history, and science, and the fruits are knowledge, skills, and values. Together, they make education comprehensive, dynamic, practical, and value based. So, discipline, history, contribution to education, background of educational system and reforms. Philosophy. History gives background to educational system. Philosophy, aims, values, and nature of education. Psychology, understanding the learner and teaching learning process. Sociology, role of education in society and societal social development. Science, scientific methods, technology, innovation in education. So, conclude, education is not a stand-alone subject. It grows and evolves by interacting with other disciplines. History teaches us where we come from. Philosophy tells us where we should go. Psychology helps us understand how learners learn. Sociology connects education to society. Science adds innovation and objectivity. By integrating these fields, education becomes a powerful tool for personal development, social change, and national progress. So, education is a broad and dynamic discipline that connects deeply with history, philosophy, psychology, sociology, and science. These relationships enrich education by making it more meaningful, inclusive, value based, and effective. Understanding this correlation helps educators design better curriculum, adopt better teaching methods, and develop learners who are responsible, skilled, and socially aware.